episode of Atn Business on Atlantic Television Network, right here in the city of Port Harcourt. This is the network's medium of bringing the happenings in the economic sector of the society to our discerning viewers. This program is aimed at bringing to the doorstep of viewers the business, financial and economic activities from our strata or society. Its delivery is accentuated through the various stock exchanges across the world, news about government, economic activities, private sector, business activities, list with expert opinions, stakeholders analysis, and correspondence reports. Headlines. Saludo laments low foreign direct investments. CBN settles disputed $2.4 billion FX claims. Nigeria may increase interest rates. By the end of the show, you can be rest assured of being informed accurately of financial activities around the world. I am your host, Wendy Aguma. We'll take a short break and when we return, we relay all the details. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Now let's go into market reports, local and international business news for today. Anambra State Governor Chukwuma Soludo has expressed worry over the low inflow of foreign direct investments into Nigeria, stressing that the country is punching below its weight both in Africa and globally. Soludo, who spoke at the first Abuja Business and Investment Summit, said Nigeria is witnessing negative returns on capital, adding that in terms of the flow of both portfolio and foreign direct investments, Nigeria is grossly punching below its weight, whether relative to the population or relative to the size of the economy in Africa and globally. He called for urgent action to secure Nigeria's future through sustainable investment, asserting that the country has the potential not only to participate but lead in the 21st century global economy. The governor stressed the importance of understanding the global context in which investment decisions are made and urged participants to consider global mega trends and their influence on Nigeria's investment landscape. Lagos State government says it is mandated to plant 1 million trees in 12 months for conservation and improving the quality of life of Lagos people. Speaking during a joint media briefing by the Ministry of Environment and the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, preparatory to the 18th edition of the annual Walk for Nature, the Commissioner for the Environment and Water Resources, Tokumbo Wahab, said it is not only about planting trees but also about having a sustainable policy that supported the mandate. The commissioner, who addressed the media alongside the Director General of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Dr. Joseph Onoja, said Lagos State is in conjunction with the Nigerian Conservation Foundation is set to hold the 2024 18th edition of the annual Walk for Nature on Saturday, October 19, 2024. He explained that the walk aims at promoting healthy lifestyles and improving the physical fitness of the participants, saying Nigerian Conservation Foundation has been collaborating with the state government since 2008. He also said the program over the years have continued to create awareness and sensitize Lagos people on the importance of nature conservation, biodiversity, as well as increasing the environmental health of the state through reduction of vehicular emission, and urge residents of Lagos to come out en masse on Saturday to join the 3-kilometer walk. Federal government plans to allocate 25% of revenue from the proposed development levy to the Student Education Fund in 2025. This is after a new bill titled A Bill for an Act to Repeal Certain Acts on Taxation and Consolidate the Legal Frameworks Relating to Taxation and enact the Nigerian Tax Act to provide for taxation of income, transactions and instruments and related matters. The bill, dated October 4th, 2024, was obtained from the National Assembly and offers insight into the government's tax strategy and fund distribution over the coming years, and stipulates that companies, excluding small and non-resident companies who are liable for taxation, will pay a development levy on the accessible profits. For the 2025 and 2026 tax years, the levy will be set at 4%, followed by reduction to 3% from 2027 to 2029, and a further decrease to 2% from 2030 onwards. The revenue distribution plans prioritizes educational funding with a particular focus on the Student Education Loan Fund, and highlights the government's long-term strategy to support students through loan schemes. House of Representatives has cautioned the federal government over the recent hike in fuel pump prices, stressing that it could trigger social unrest in the country. The Green Chamber handed down the warning after a meeting between the federal government and Labour leaders over the increase in petrol prices, which ended in a stalemate on Wednesday. This is coming after last week NNPC retail outlets raised petrol prices to 1,030 naira per litre from 897 naira in Abuja, while in Lagos the price jumped to 998 naira per litre from 868, as well as other regions experienced similar increases. This is the second price hike in a month, reflecting an increase of about 14.8% of 133 naira, and development trigger higher transportation and food costs across the country, while the organized labor and the organized private sector are demanding an immediate reversal of the price hike in view of the current economic hardship across the country. The resolution of the House prayed for the intervention of the executive arm of government following the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance moved on the floor of the Green Chamber by the minority leader Kingsley Chinda and 100 others. House of Representatives has called on the federal government to reverse the recent pump price hike and take immediate steps in stabilizing petrol and cooking gas prices through targeted interventions such as temporary price relief measures, tax reductions, or subsidies on LPG for low-income households. The House also called on the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and other relevant agencies to expedite the repair and maintenance of domestic refineries and increase local refinery capacity as a stopgap measure to reduce the dependence on imported refined petroleum products. The Green Chamber further urged the Central Bank of Nigeria to implement monetary policies that will mitigate the adverse effects of the fuel price hikes on inflation, particularly with regards to essential foods and services. This, among other resolutions, were reached by the House during plenary following a motion by Honorable Kingsley Chinda and 111 other lawmakers. Presenting the motion, Honorable Ali Madaki, who is a co-sponsor, said Nigeria, as an oil-producing nation, has historically relied on petroleum products and cooking gas as essential sources of energy for both domestic and industrial purposes. He expressed concern that in recent months, the prices of petrol and cooking gas have skyrocketed and continue to do so, creating an unsustainable financial burden on ordinary Nigerians and escalating the cost of living, adding that the removal of fuel subsidies coupled with global oil price volatility and depreciation of the naira has contributed significantly to the rising cost of petrol at the pump and cooking gas for households. He also expressed worry that the escalating fuel and gas prices are impacting the cost of transportation, food, essential goods and healthcare, and further increasing inflation and pushing many families into deeper financial hardship.
My dear colleagues, I draw authority and strength from Order 8 Rule 5 of our House Rule to pray that we consider this matter as one that is urgent and of very great importance to the Nigerian populace. Is the issue of the increase in the pump price of petroleum products, which took effect last week. And you can all agree with me that ever since this happened, particularly for those of us who are seated in these green chambers, our people have been on us. Nigerians have been groaning under the pain. Every other sector has been affected. And we are expected to discuss this issue as one that is important and urgent, else we might compel Nigerians to take the laws into their hands and discuss it on our behalf.
Worried that the escalating fuel and gas prices are impacting the cost of transportation, food, essential goods and health care, further increasing inflation and pushing many families into deeper financial hardship. Further concerned that businesses, particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, are struggling to manage their operational costs due to increased fuel prices, threatening economic stability and job security. Acknowledge that the federal government has previously announced plans to require domestic refineries and boost local refining capacity to address some of these issues, but has yet to deliver significant results in this regard. Mindful that the rising cost of petrol and cooking gas poses significant threat to livelihood of millions of Nigerians, and unchecked inflation pressure caused by increased prices can lead to social unrest, increased poverty rate, and negative long-term economic effects. Also worried that unless urgent and pragmatic steps are taken to control the rising cost of petrol and cooking gas, the nation will go into economic crisis, leading into negative outcomes like increased crime rate and mortality.
The House also encouraged the federal government to explore alternative energy sources and diversify the country's energy mix to reduce reliance on petrol and gas, as well as promoting renewable energy solutions that are more sustainable and affordable in the long term. It also urged state government to adopt policies that alleviate the financial burden on their citizens, such as waiving taxes or levies on transportation and goods affected by high fuel costs. The House committees on petroleum downstream and legislative compliance were mandated to ensure compliance and report back to the House within 2 weeks of further legislative actions. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelebu says there is a need to have power grids in different regions or states to put an end to incessant grid collapses. The minister, who disclosed this when he unveiled Hexin, Leveltech, an electricity meter manufacturing company in the Lekki area of Lagos State, said grid collapses are almost inevitable in Nigeria given the deplorable state of the country's power infrastructure, stressing that having multiple power grids in each region and state would ensure stability. He said the decentralization of the power sector would help the plan to build grids in each region, saying this was made possible by the Electricity Act signed by the President Bola Tinubu in 2023, and the development will enable government start moving gradually towards having regional groups and possible having state grids. Adelebu also said there was no grid collapse in the last 4 months until it happened again on Monday, and while unveiling the company, commended the firm for investing so much in Nigeria at a time when some were divesting. He said the event marked a significant milestone in the journey of the sector towards a more efficient and equitable electricity sector, adding that the launch of the meter factory represented a key achievement in the ongoing efforts to prioritize local content, foster job creation, and reduce Nigeria's reliance on importation. Federal government has signed the irrevocable deregistration and export request authorization to enable airline operators to access dry lease aircraft. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, who signed IDERA, said it also expected to boost the ratings of Nigeria globally and open it to more financiers in the aviation sector, adding that lessors and financiers in the aviation industry blacklisted Nigeria because they thought the country was unsafe for business and their aircraft. Speaking in Abuja while signing the document, it said the successful signing of the Cape Town Convention and the signing of IDERA would open the country to more opportunities and grow the aviation sector. Keyamo also said he would lead stakeholders to a world conference in Dublin, Ireland next year to access more aircraft. Also speaking, the acting director general of the NCAA, Captain Chris Najomo, and IDER would enable airlines to have access to dry lease aircraft and boost their operational capacity. And while referring to Cape Town Convention, said the convention aims to reduce the cost of raising finance for large, high-value mobile assets reach routinely across borders. Minister of State for Petroleum Resources on Oil, Heineken Bubiri, says a local upgrade of the FPSO Tamara Nanaye on floating production storage and offloading vessel at the Laudo Yard in Apapa, Lagos, will boost the country's oil production. The FPSO Tamara Nanaye upgrade was described as the first of its kind in the nation's history, being a sophisticated project executed entirely within the country, marking the second time in Africa that the FPSO will undergo such modifications, with the first being the South Africa over 2 decades ago. Labobiri, while inspecting the new components that will transform the FPSO as it gets modified, commended the various stakeholders involved in the project, including the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and its subsidiaries, and private sector partners like WEAP, Century Group, Dangote Industries, and Access Bank. Said the goal is to boost oil production to over 2 million barrels per day, adding that the kind of investment in local capacity is key part of achieving the goal. The FPSO Tamara Nanaye is scheduled to be deployed to the Kalekule field in OML 7172 after its modifications are complete, while the deployment is expected to increase Nigeria's production output by 40,000 barrels of oil per day and 50 million standard cubic feet of gas. The project is projected for completion by the first quarter of 2025, with expectations that the Tamara Nanaye will significantly enhance Nigeria's oil output. Away from that, Central Bank of Nigeria has commenced a revaluation validation exercise to ascertain compliance of manufacturers and importers over foreign exchange claims worth $2.4 billion. The CBN governor, Olayemi Cardoso, who disclosed this while speaking to the business community at a special summit dinner organized by the Nigerian Economic Summit Group in Abuja, said the bank has finalized its first stage of verification and is currently going through its second stage to authenticate claims by manufacturers, and new developments comes 8 months after the Apex Bank claimed to have cleared FX forwards worth $7 billion, effectively eliminating a legacy burden. The MAN DG Shegun Kadir said there is still issues of the unsettled $2.4 billion FX forwards contract that the CBN, for inexplicable reasons, is still holding. Continuing, Cardoso explained that policy initiatives by the bank on the foreign exchange market have led to diaspora remittance of $600 million between January and September 2024 from an annual remittance of $200 million. Speaking further on his core mandate, Cardoso said taming inflation is key in stabilizing the economy. Securities and Exchange Commission has revealed plans to make it easier for smaller firms to access funds. Director General of SEC, Dr. Imamotimi Agama, described crowdfunding as an online money-raising strategy that began as a way for the public to donate small amounts of money, and often through social networking websites, to help artists, musicians, filmmakers, and other creative people finance their projects. According to Agama, the concept has recently been promoted as a way of assisting small businesses and startups looking for investment capital to help get their business ventures off the ground, adding that the regulations for the registration and operation of crowdfunding platforms and intermediaries released in 2021 by the regulatory detailed the regulatory framework by which companies could raise debt or equity capital through crowdfunding. Under the regulation, all MSMEs incorporated as a company in Nigeria with a minimum of 2 years operating track record are eligible to raise funds through a crowdfunding portal registered by the Commission in exchange for the issuance of shares, bond, debentures, simple investment contracts, or such other investment instruments as the SEC may determine from time to time. In addition to detailing the crowdfunding process, the rules provide for the major participants and channels in the crowdfunding space as follows: the crowdfunding portal, as well as the crowdfunding intermediary, the issuer, and the investor. Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association has said that the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority will not hesitate to clamp down on sharp practice by operators in the oil and gas sector against Nigerians. The president of Petron, Billy Gillis-Harry, disclosed these to newsmen in an interview. Gillis-Harry spoke after a recent stakeholders meeting, noting that NMDPRA has a mandate to regulate the oil and gas sector to prevent it from being hijacked by anti-competitive forces. According to him, the agency has pledged commitment to grow Nigeria's economy and encourage the ease of doing business for the benefit of all Nigerians. His comments come amid a recent hike in the price of fuel to between 1,030 naira and 1,200 naira per litre by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company and other players in the industry. In the past months, Nigerians have continued to witness fuel price hikes as inflation rates rose to 32.70% in September 2024. Nigeria's crude oil exploration slowed year-on-year in September 2024 due to low investment in the upstream petroleum sector, adding to a newly released report by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. Data provided by direct sources, according to OPEC, said crude oil production dropped marginally by 1,352 million barrels per day in August to 1,324 million barrels per day in September 2024. In the latest October 2024 monthly oil market report, OPEC also said Nigeria's number of rigs deployed for exploration dropped by 17 recorded at the beginning of 2024 to 14 as of September 2024. A decrease in the number of rigs means low interest and investment in exploration, as previous reports pointed to various divestment pursuits of international oil companies from the country. According to OPEC, Algeria emerged as the highest nation in the exploration with 43 rigs, while Equatorial Guinea came last with 0 rigs. According to the report, Nigeria's oil production has remained in the 1.2 million barrels per day range between 2022 and 2023, while rising to between 1.3 and 1.2 million barrels per day in the first and second quarter of 2024. Production then went down to 1.2 million barrels per day in the second quarter to 1.3 million barrels per day in the third quarter and remained flat until September 2024. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Cardoso, says the proposed bank's recapitalization policy will support the country's 1 trillion economy ambition by year 2030. Cardoso disclosed this during an interactive session with the House Committee on Banking Regulations while reeling out plans towards achieving the feat. Stated that CBN has taken actions to ensure the safety, soundness, and resilience of the banking industry, including the recapitalization of the banking sector by raising the minimum capital base to submit the $1 trillion economy envisioned by the federal government of Nigeria by 2030. He noted that the contribution of agriculture to the total GDP increased in addition to the growth rate of the sector, rising from a negative territory of minus 0.90% to 1.4%, indicating a substantial turnaround in productivity.
Regarding the foreign exchange market, the bank implemented various reforms, including a unification strategy, which streamlined various exchange rate windows into a single model, adopting the willing buyer, willing seller approach to enhance FX liquidity and financial market stability. This move was aimed at fostering transparency, reducing market distortions, and enhancing the efficiency of foreign exchange transactions, allocations. The consolidation involved the implementation of new operational guidelines, which included removing the IMTA quote cap. Additionally, the bank resumed the sale of FX at NAFEM and Bureau de Change. I want to assure you that in spite of the challenges confronting our economy, there are clear reasons for optimism. The gradual moderation in inflation, foreign exchange stability, ongoing banking sector recapitalization, and other positive trends in key sectors indicate a path towards macroeconomic growth and stability. We remain committed to staying vigilant and adaptable amidst ongoing global and domestic uncertainties. The bank will closely monitor economic developments and adjust policies as needed to achieve low and stable inflation, exchange rate stability conducive for sustainable economic growth.
Earlier, Chairman of the committee, Honorable Mohammed El-Rufai, had observed concerns of Nigerians over some economic policies introduced which has been affected by the country, which has affected the country negatively.
Palpable reality, the Naira has depreciated to around 1,500 Naira to the US dollar. For a country that relies on imports, this exchange rate crisis is not just an inconvenience, it is devastating. Nigerians are yet to see any real improvement in their day-to-day lives. Again, I feel we are all responsible. Unemployment, which increased by 5.3% in the first quarter of 2024, continues to climb as businesses are forced to cut jobs, largely due to harsh monetary environment and an unstable exchange regime. The policies intended to curb inflation and stabilize the Naira seem to be having the opposite effect on the wider economy. Additionally, Nigeria recently secured another loan worth $6.5 billion from the World Bank, thereby making Nigeria's debt profile to exceed 129 trillion Naira. This is particularly troubling. We are borrowing more even as our currency weakens and inflation surges. This is clearly creating a vicious cycle of borrowing and inflation, which I believe and I know and I hope the CBN will arrest immediately.
Nigeria Customs Service says since 2018 it intercepted 20 significant shipments comprising 10,498 pieces of various arms and 114,929 pieces of ammunition with an estimated duty paid value of 9.58 billion naira, adding that 60% of the seizures happened in 2023. The Controller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, who disclosed this in Ikeja, said the recent surge accounts for 34.67% of the total DPV, 20.58% of the arms seized, and 99.62% of the ammunition were intercepted over the past 6 years. Speaking of wildlife trafficking, Atn lamented that the alarming rise in wildlife trafficking not only threatens the country's biodiversity but also tarnishes Nigeria's international reputation, stressing that the illegal trade is an endangered species, especially pangolin scales, which has positioned Nigeria as a key transit point in the global wildlife trafficking network. Giving details of the wildlife trafficking, he revealed that in August, the service, in collaboration with the Wildlife Justice Commission, conducted a joint enforcement operation operation, resulting in the seizure of 9,493 kg of pangolin scales, and the operation, carried out in 2 separate locations, represents the largest seizure of pangolin scale globally since January 2020, adding that a total of 4 persons were arrested in connection with the operations. Adeniyi also said that in a related international case, the service has made substantial progress in an investigation linked to a shipment from Onnet Port, Port Harcourt, which was intercepted at the Hai Phong port in Vietnam, adding that the shipment contained 1,580 kilograms of elephant tusk, stressing that 3 individuals, including both agents and sellers connected to this illegal export, have been arrested. Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria is asking for regular channeling of the waterways to reduce boat accidents. A statement issued by the President General Adewale Adeyanju also urged the government to make adequate lightening and removal of wrecks a priority, adding that more was needed to be done to prevent boat accidents on the country's waterways. He expressed regret over the tragic boat accident that occurred at Imore, Lagos State, earlier this month, and extended his condolences to the families of the victims who lost their lives in the incident, while also wishing the injured a quick recovery. He commended the Managing Director of NIWA, Mr. Bola Ayebamiji, for his prompt intervention, which he said played a crucial role in rescuing victims and ensuring prompt medical attention for the injured, and also lauded NIWAM's commitment to holding those responsible accountable, noting that it would serve as a deterrent for future negligence. Maritime Workers Union of Nigeria also lauded NIWA for its effort in improving safety on Nigeria's waterways, particularly through initiatives like creation of the NIWA River Marshal, aimed at enhancing security and safety in coastal areas. In view of the implementation of the import duty waiver for imported rice and other staple foods, the organized private sector and the Rice Processors Association of Nigeria have asked the government to extend the deadline for the waiver beyond December 2024. Both groups said there has been no reduction in the prices of food items since the introduction of the policy by the federal government in July, adding that the policy was designed to make essential food items more affordable and stabilize rising prices, and is yet to benefit a singular importer or company. This is coming after the federal government announced the implementation of the input data duty waiver program on July 15, 2024, and the plan was that it would run through December 31st, while the program was meant to help cushion the effects of various factors contributing to food scarcity and price hikes in the country. Sadly, 3 months after the government announced the plans, the scheme has failed to. Some stakeholders believe that the non-implementation of the policy 3 months after is connected with the government trying to fine-tune modalities to ensure that the policy is hitch-free when implemented. However, giving an update on the program, the Director General of Rice Processors Association of Nigeria, Dr. Andy Equilim, said he would want the program to be extended, and there is a need for the government to act fast before it snowballs into crisis as the cost of foodstuff like rice is skyrocketing. Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources and the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority have partnered to boost the use of liquefied petroleum gas as cooking gas among Nigerians. Officials from the Petroleum Ministry and the NMDPRA also disclosed their commitment during the Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers 2024 conference themed Sustainable Energy Growth in Nigeria in Lagos. Stakeholders from the government, regulatory bodies, and industry players deliberated on strategies for enhancing LPG adoption across Nigeria. In his keynote address, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources on Gas, Ekeperipe Epo, represented by a ministry official, Abel Nsa, highlighted the government's dedication to increasing LPG penetration as part of the Decade of Gas initiative. He said the government's initiative required infrastructure expansion and creating favorable market conditions to attract investment in the LPG value chain, as well as the health and environmental benefits of increased LPG adoption, saying it would reduce reliance on traditional biomass for cooking, which contributes to poor indoor air quality. Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Zach Adedeji, says the tax reform bills recently presented to the National Assembly is not aimed at increasing tax or introducing new taxes into the nation's tax books. He said the reform is also not aimed at merging any government agency or with the responsibility of tax collection, neither will it lead to any loss of job in all sectors of the country. Speaking at a meeting with the House Committee on Finance ahead of the second reading of the bills, Adedeji said the four Adedi said the 4 tax reform bills aim to harmonize all tax laws scattered in different tax laws and establishment bills, which he said has reduced the ineffective performance of tax in terms of tax collection. He also said the other reason is to organize a fiscal framework in the country to actually regulate and monitor cryptocurrency, adding that Nigeria is a destination for investment. This is where we wrap it up on this edition of ATN Business on Atlantic Television Network. I am Wendy Aguma. You can follow us and watch us on all our social media platforms as displayed on the screen. Thank you for watching and good afternoon.